All right, everyone, and it is our favorite time of the week again, time for hashtag Rising Qs, where we get to answer your questions. All right, Saagar, what's up first?
Okay, number one, our first edition after the election. Does record voter turnout favor GOP or Dem in future races? Hashtag Rising Qs. It's a great question, Dante. And you know what the answer is? Neither, which I love, which is a point that we made here 1,000,000 times. If you go and you look at the Knight Foundation study of the 100 million Americans who do not vote, non-voters basically break down on 50-50 lines and are more amenable to what? A populist message. Shocker. And so today, in the highest record turnout since 1900, yes, you heard me that correctly, many of these non-voters broke almost evenly for Vice President Biden and for Donald Trump. And I want this to be a message to the GOP. You do not have to try and suppress votes or, focus on voter. I'm not saying this stuff is not important or election security. What I am saying is your time is much better spent obsessing over how you turn out more voters, because it turned out record turnout had a lot of Republicans come out of the woodwork because they were all just sick of the left, as many of the others were.
I think you put it so well. Yeah. It really depends. Guess what? People are not these immovable objects that they've been portrayed, or just a monolithic demographic group that always marches in the same direction.
Thank you.
People are paying attention. They listen. They notice whether you're speaking to them or not, who your message is tailored to or not. Joe Biden is winning this election, likely. We're filming this before it's been actually called, but it looks like he's going to win this election based on white suburbanites, because his campaign was pitched to white suburbanites. So, yes, bringing out more non-voters could help Democrats if they have a message that appeals to those people, or it could help Republicans. It's really not more complicated than that.
Yep. Okay. All right. What's the next question?
With word, I love the way this is phrased. With word that ice cream queen Pelosi, we got the wrong graphic up on the screen, but that's okay. We can fix that in a minute, might be voted out of House leadership. Do you think a squad member could overthrow her? House leader Ilhan Omar has a nice ring to it. I am highly doubtful, even as people are a little dissatisfied or disgruntled with Nancy Pelosi, that she's going anywhere. I mean, first of all, Democrats didn't do well in the House. They were expecting
lost 10 seats.
They were expecting to gain a lot of seats. Instead, they lost a significant number of seats. But it also wasn't like the kind of wipeout bloodbath that would cause this major soul search. They're not going to do any soul searching, by the way. They're going to be like, oh, we got the presidency, we got Donald Trump out. Let's just not talk about how dramatically we underperformed everyone's expectations. Let's not talk about the mostly blue dogs and centrists who ended up losing, who were told were the future of the party and they're so incredible and they know how to win in these districts. I think they'll probably keep the status quo. Why? I mean, in part, it's follow the money. Nancy Pelosi raises tons of money. She doles it out to everybody. That's how she continues to maintain power, in spite of the fact that I think she's been an incredibly destructive and ineffective leader.
Yeah, no, look, here's how it works in D.C., which is that a narrow win is considered a blowout and affirmation of your leadership. A narrow loss is considered something that you blame on the other side. And a wipeout loss is when you really get to keep your job. So, in essence, you never leave. There's always problems.
Win-win-win
you
situation.
Go ask how the Bush neocons are doing, right? They're more popular and they're more successful in Washington than ever. And they're the same people that drove the party into the ground. So the end of the story is Pelosi is absolutely not going anywhere. So do not even have your hopes to that effect. I'm sorry, but that's just how DC works.
All right, Saagar, what's the last one?
Final question, which is, Krystal, given, I like you, I pose it directly to you. Krystal, given coronavirus's impact on electoral politics, do you think that Bernie would have beaten Trump this year? He thinks yes. Norhead Rad.
You won't be surprised to learn that I 100% agree. And I think that, look, the electoral case that was made for Bernie, I think those of us who support Bernie's agenda, things like Medicare for All and Green New Deal, made the case based on the policies, and that is the most important case to make. Look at the state of Florida, however, where Joe Biden got destroyed and $15 minimum wage won a 60% easy majority. You look across the country, you see similar stories. The freaking Fox News exit polls had government health insurance. They framed it in this very scary way at 72% support. Action on climate change, large majority, 60% said we want the government to do more. So look, in an election like this, The people who were 100% going to turn out for the Democrats were who? The white suburbanites. You didn't need a campaign that was all wrapped up and driven to cater to this one group. They were going to turn out anyway. What you needed was someone like Bernie, who had an agenda and actually excited people so that you could win over those swing groups, like the Latinos, who went from voting for Bernie Sanders in the primary to many of them voting for Donald Trump, like young voters who are much more focused on issue-driven, policy-specific change. So those were the groups that you needed someone to appeal to. Oh, and by the way, how many times did we have to tell people, it doesn't matter if you run Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or Mike Bloomberg or John Kasich, they're going to call you a socialist anyway. Doesn't matter. So you may as well at least have the policies that impact people's material interests if you're going to get called a socialist anyhow.
So there's no question that Bernie's economic policies were very popular. I've always maintained that here on the show. But I think he would have lost. And the reason why is that you can see even the backlash, the cultural backlash to the protest movement, Black Lives Matter, the basic cultural revolution we had in this country during what happened, is that it drove out millions of people to vote for Trump. And if Bernie Sanders, an affirmative defund the police candidate, open borders candidate, would have run, I think he would have been blown out. And even though he would have won, some college suburbanites, not the same level.
Well, it depends on how he ran. Because if he ran...
But that's what he was running on. That was his whole campaign, in 2020. That 2016 Bernie, maybe. But 2020 Bernie...
I don't agree with that. I mean, look at what his messaging was on. Why did he have such pull with Latinos? It was Medicare for all. I mean, that was the center, the core of his message. And what has he been talking about this summer? It hasn't been about a lot of the cultural issues, although I agree with you that he's gone too far in that direction. He would have said, here's the stimulus plan that I will pass. Here's what my 100 days agenda looks like. Here's how in a pandemic I'm going to get you health care. And so all those people that came out for Trump, they were coming out anyway, right?
See, I don't think
that's
so.
all. I mean, you couldn't drive up turnout more than they already did. They all came out. Even when it's milquetoast Joe Biden, what you needed on the other side was the enthusiasm to win over, with a material economic agenda, to win over Latinos that faded, to win over young people and make sure that they come out, to win over minority communities, speaking again to their economic and material interests. And that Bernie Sanders would have had a much better chance of than Joe Biden ultimately did. With Joe Biden, you got the cultural backlash anyway, and you didn't get someone, number one, who could speak in a complete sentence,
the cultural
and
backlash
number two, that has any kind of economic agenda.
But it's the cultural backlash from the Bernie left. I mean, let's be honest here. And then same thing in terms.
What I'm saying is you already got that.
But the young votes didn't happen in the campaign. It didn't happen during the primary. So look, maybe. I mean, look, the guy had what? Huge rallies. And at the end of the day, vote was like basically the same since 2016. Are they really going to come out and vote? I don't think so.
But who did he do best with? And who did he deliver on that?
But Latinos didn't swing this election.
Latinos.
But they didn't swing this election.
Well, no, because Joe Biden won, it looks like. But, again, we're filming this before we know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know what the results are.
The Latinos didn't swing it, you're right, because Joe Biden ultimately won on the white suburbanites. I think that Bernie Sanders would have done just as well with white suburbanites. You had the cultural backlash anyway and the enthusiasm behind Donald Trump. And I think you would have done better with Latinos.
It's possible. No way to know for sure.
We will never know.
Yeah.
All right. We're rising content for you later today.